Well, summer has come to an end and the seasons are changing. It's now fall and the leaves are changing. A little cooler breeze is in the air. And people are starting to take out their fall clothes, which is personally my favorite. Sweaters, jeans, thick shirts, flannel shirts. That's my jam. Boots. Love me some boots. And we're just gearing down, getting ready for that colder weather. How do you adapt? What are some of the things that you change in your life as your own personal seasons change, whether they be in career or personal or with your health? We're going to be talking a little bit about what's been going on. Season 2 of Family Health and Hustle starts right now.
Welcome to the Family Health and Hustle podcast, where sharing our stories, common experiences, and best practices about balancing family, practicing good health, and reaching your goals can help you feel supported, bring clarity, and guide you to the life you want. So if you're ready to challenge yourself, your health, and the hustle around you, then consider this your community. Now, let's welcome your host, Anthony Hernandez.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Appreciate you joining me today. As I mentioned in the introduction, there's different seasons. And during different seasons, you do different things. There's a time and a season for everything. Now, you may have been asking yourself, Anthony, where you've been, bruh? You disappeared. You went MIA. Now you're back? Now you're saying something about season 2? I didn't know there was seasons. Guess what? Neither did I, honestly. But that's okay. I'm back and I'm going to explain to you and tell you and fill you in on everything that's been going on. Now, a lot of podcasters, there's a whole community of podcasters, and they'll get together and they'll talk about podcast stuff, secrets, how to grow your show, how to get interviews, things like that. And one thing they'll say is like, hey, if you ever have gaps in your podcast, maybe acknowledge it, but then just kind of move on. Don't focus on it. And I'm totally for that. I agree with that. I think it's a great idea. But I also think it's important for you to know why we had a little gap there, why we had a season 1 and a season 2, and what's been going on, because I wasn't planning on doing seasons. But things happen and things get crazy, as in your life and my life, and there was a huge pivot point, kind of what I was talking about in some of my previous shows, things that were happening, and it was just, I had to shift focus. I had to put focus on some things that were there at hand, right in front of me, that needed to take place. And it's a bummer, but it happens. I'm back. And I think it's important because we all do that. We all have things we want to pursue, and sometimes something else gets in our face, and we got to figure out how to solve that problem first. And it's okay to put what you really want to do aside for a minute and say, okay, let me focus on this, because maybe this other thing is bigger, has more implications, involves my family more, is more important, whatever. So that's kind of in a nutshell what happened to me. So when we last spoke, the intention is to do this show every week, and I'm going to recommit to you. I'm going to start trying to get that back on track here. We got some great interviews scheduled, because even though I haven't been doing the show has been constantly on my mind, because I really enjoy this. I really enjoy being a part of this group and this whole community that we're building of people to support each other as we go through challenging things, and as we set goals and we overcome goals and we accomplish things, and we just enjoying the whole journey. So that being said, though, there's a time and a season for everything. And previously when we were speaking, I honestly was working, it's kind of a chaotic life, working a full-time job, doing this podcast on the side. And then I was also running another business on the side that was primarily on the weekends. And I'd mentioned that before. That is a frozen dessert business where we had a food truck and we would do indoor caterings and events and different things. During the winter, we'd mostly do the indoor stuff. And then in the summer, we'd do a little bit of both. And so it was taking up a lot of time, but not too much. It wasn't too crazy. But the few things together, along with family. I'm married. I have 2 children. Want to spend time with them. We have family in different states. We want to go visit them, all that stuff. So, a little bit of juggling, especially the hardest part is when you have to work a job maybe you don't care so much for, not that you don't care so much for, but that it's more of a necessity instead of like something you want to do forever. And, that's how jobs have been to me in the last several positions I've had, where it's like, I might enjoy it. I get along with the team. I work hard. I do my best. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not something I'm like, that's not why I live, is to do that job. And that's taken a lot of time to kind of grow and understand and shift my focus on that too, because I'm also the type of person where I would dive into a business or a job, and I would be at their every whim, whatever they wanted, at night, during the day, on trips, whatever. And to the point where, it could have even affected time with my family in the evening if I'm rushing home to look up something on my computer for someone at work, things like that. But that is fully my fault for not drawing those lines. And that's something I've learned, and I'm growing, especially throughout this process. So last time we talked, there was some crazy shifts happening. I was working for a company in an industry that was really struggling at the beginning of last year and most of this year. And they basically came to me and were like, hey, we can't afford you. We got to probably have you do more of a sales role, because at the time I was doing a marketing and automation. So I would go in and set up their system. So they had someone that would do their websites. I'd go in and connect their website to a CRM. That's called Salesforce. A Salesforce administrator was what my role was. So I'd go set it up to Salesforce, and then I would connect it to an email platform or a text messaging platform, or send out email blasts or whatever. And a large part of my job was someone would have to create the content, and then I would go in and program it and send it out. And so unfortunately, with that team, it was a small team, and a lot of that content creation was falling on one person, which was causing a slowdown in some of those marketing campaigns and things. And so anyway, I think there may have been a perception of like, okay, maybe we're not generating what we want from some of those marketing systems and such. And so if we got to make a cut somewhere, maybe Anthony's department's where it needs to go. And that frustrated me for a couple reasons. One, because this is what has tired me with jobs in the past, is I hate fighting to prove my value. I understand you got a dollar amount above your head, and you need to generate that amount of return for the person who's investing in you, which would be your employer. But at the same time, when you're working for small companies and stuff, and depending on the maturity of the manager and stuff like that, you're fighting to prove that you're worth what they're spending, and that's great. But when a huge part of your role is dependent on someone else and they're not delivering, it kind of makes you look bad. So that was super frustrating to me. Anyway, I digress. So the company came to me and said, hey, the industry overall was really tough. We're not doing too well. Can you switch to a sales role? Which I was working in the mortgage industry, and so I switched from that marketing position. I was going to switch to like a full-time loan officer, which, by the way, been there, done that. Got a lot of respect for you guys that do that out there. And that's not my jam. It was the same hustle all the time. I was dealing with the same problems that someone else has been dealing with for 20 years, right? The most senior person in our office was dealing with some of the same things I was, and it was like, I don't want to deal with those same problems in 20 years. And so it wasn't my jam. I didn't enjoy it, but it's a great job, an important job. Anyway, so they said, hey, we need you to go into that role. And I said, okay, but if I do that, I'm going to start looking for another position, because that's a full commission role. And I said, maybe I'll try it for 30 or 60 days, but when do you want me to start? And they never told me. And I followed up with them a week later, said, hey, no rush. When do you want me to start this? And by that point, we're like in the middle of the pay period. And then a full pay period went by, and then they didn't pay me. And they were like, sorry. That's literally what they said. Like, sorry, we can't pay you. And I was like, what? So I've been putting in all these hours and you're not going to pay me? And they're like, no. Anyway, a whole bunch of drama with that. So around that time, me and my wife were like, you know what? This is crazy. It's getting a little warmer now. I think the last time we spoke was around April. So it's starting to get a little warmer. The outside events were starting to take off. Our frozen dessert business, we were like, you know what? I think we can make this work. And so that's what we decided to do. We decided let's jump 2 feet into our frozen dessert business and try to make this be a full-time living. And so right around that time, it was our 10-year anniversary, and so we had a cruise plan. So we also went out of town for a week, which, by the way, was super fun. If you have not gone on a cruise, I highly recommend it. Very fun, especially if you're a partier. I mean, they just party non-stop. Personally, not a partier. Don't have a problem with it. You're a partier, rock and roll. You're going to love it. It's going to be heaven to you. So we go on a cruise for a week. It was awesome. We enjoy that. We come home, and then we're like, all right, it's time to get to brass tacks. We got to start really putting our shoulder against the wheel and start really just pushing and pushing to make this business work. And so that, my friends, is why you haven't heard from me for a little while, because that has taken up all of my time and focus throughout the summer. And I am very much the type of person that wants to know where my income is coming from. Like I feel safe in a job, and I think a lot of people do. But one thing that has occurred to me over these last couple of years is like, it's a false sense of safe, because I still don't, if I work somewhere, I still don't know where that money's coming from. I'm employed. So I think, oh, I have money coming in. And maybe that's true to a certain extent, but on multiple occasions now, because of one person above me would come down and say, hey, we've analyzed a few things and we need to make some cuts, and you're the one that needs to go. That's happened to me three times actually in my whole life, and it's really derailed me. Two of those times I was married with kids. One of the times I was 19 and just flying by the edge of my seat, and that didn't really matter. So, but the other two were pretty stressful because I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? One of them, I didn't even have a job title. I just kind of did stuff. I was good with talking to people, and I had just kind of grown through those ranks and made probably more money than I should have, because I couldn't even classify what I was doing. And then the other, I did have a role, but it still just stunk. It still stunk that happened. And it happens to all of us, and I understand that. So please don't take me as complaining. I'm just learning is really what it is. So that happens. We jump into the business full-fledged. And the bummer about that is a lot of these summer events have to be booked earlier in the year, like February, March, and here it is April. And so there's still events booking, but like some of those big ones we had missed the window for. Some of the events that we could maybe have brought in several $1,000s for one event, they were already booked. And also because I had never done it full time, I was only ever doing it on the weekends, and so it was at a very limited capacity. So the steps to take from going on the weekends to scaling up to a full-scale business, very difficult for me, big learning curve to understand. And when I say by big learning curve, it's like I either overshot it and spent way too much money to try to grow something, or I shrunk it, I didn't spend enough money, or whatever. It was this really weird spot of trying to gauge how to grow the business. And that, frankly, has placed some challenges in my path throughout this summer. And so it's just been a huge learning experience, and a positive one. I'm grateful that it's happened. And I hope that any of you, as you face challenges with employment or whatever, you can look at it two different ways. One, you can blame the job or blame the person or just blame everything in the situation except yourself. And I'm not saying it's your fault, but there's two types of people. We either blame everyone else, or the second type of person is, this sucks. I'm going to look at it and see what I can learn from it. And that's what I'm really trying to be. And it is hard to be that person. It is so easy to be like, well, if this person would have done his job, or this person would have done their job, or this or that or this, then blah, 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 blah. It's so easy to do that. Or I got screwed over here or screwed that way. So easy to do that. So it's hard, but more satisfying and creates more peace if you just look at it and say, okay, what can I learn from it? And take notes. Take notes, take notes, take notes. So that, my friend, is why you haven't seen me for a little while. And again, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave you hanging. I did not mean for a season 1 and a season 2. And I hope that this is just one really long season that goes on for years. Season 2 will be like 1,000 episodes long. But that's kind of what's been going on. Along with our business, we were doing 1 trailer. Now we grew it to 2 trailers. So we had to figure out how to finance that. That's created its own challenges. Had conversations with people that were potential investors. That created unique opportunities and questions and learning curves and things like that. We end up ultimately not pursuing that and just kind of doing our own financing, having some family invest, things like that. And so that's created its own thing. And so it's just been like, learning. And now things are starting to finally slow down. And for the last couple months, the show has just really been heavy on my mind. And I'm like, I got to get that going again. I got to get rocking and rolling. And so here we are. And that's my commitment to you, is I'm back. going to try to get this rocking and rolling and continue to build this community the right way. And my vision for this has even expanded. At first, it was just a show, just a great show to be a part of, maybe a Facebook group. And that's still what I want it to be. But familyhealthandhustle.com, I really hope becomes a full-scale resource for anyone that joins the community, whether it be PDF downloads. There's a sweet planner that I want to create and put up there for people to take advantage of to help with productivity. That's a huge thing, no matter where you're at in life, is how do you be productive? Where so many things are grabbing our attention, what can we do to be productive? And we got some good stuff coming up for that as well on the show and as resources. And also just a number of different things I don't even know yet. I just want that site to be a place that you guys and gals, we can all kind of put things that are working for us up there. So that's kind of how that vision is expanding and growing. Well, but as far as life goes right now, like I said, things are slowing down a little bit in that business now that the weather's changing, which is super scary because I've been full-time self-employed for like 6 months or so. And some of the people I've even interviewed on the show in the past have been, self-employed for 10 plus years, 15 years. And I'm like, wow, I hope that's me. Because I'll be honest, those first couple months, and even now a little bit, I'm like a little stressed out how some of this stuff's going to work. And I think the most important thing is just keep going. You put your head down and you keep working. Life's going to be hard, whether you're working for someone else or you're working for yourself. So put your head down and work. Whatever happens, happens. Maybe I go back to a full-time gig. That's okay. But I really think pursuing these things is going to make me happier and more fulfilled in the long run. It's just a matter of getting the idea up and running and sustaining itself. Anyway, thank you so much for joining the show today. I know that was a lot of just everything that's been going on. I want to let you know I'm back. I'm recommitted. Let's get some great people on this show. Let's grow this community. Let's talk about these things. Let's huddle together and really rally together and say, we're going to overcome whatever obstacles in our path. We're going to achieve our goal, whatever the size, and we're going to love the journey. We're going to love the journey because that's the most important part of the whole thing. Also, the other thing I want you to take from the show is there's a time and a season for everything. Do not be apologetic. Do not be sorry. There are times that things take your attention and focus away. And as long as they are things of good, things that are healthy, things that are worthy of your pursuit and your time, then I say go after them. But in a world where we're inundated with lots of things that are not worthy of our time, just be careful. Make sure you're thinking things through and really trying to decipher some of that. And that's a challenge I go through often is I got a few different things. I got the podcast coming back up, the frozen dessert business. I do some marketing stuff on the side right now, just kind of my own little thing. And I often sit down and have to think like, okay, am I overwhelming myself? Am I pursuing something that I shouldn't be pursuing, or something that's not worthy of my time, or something that's a shiny object? What I don't want to do is chase a shiny object. And so I'm constantly thinking about that, constantly recalibrating, constantly writing down some things like, okay, right. So anyway, it's hard out there. I know it is for everyone pursuing their goals and dreams. Keep hustling, keep going, and I will see you next week.
Thank you for joining in today, because pursuing a balance between family, health, and hustle, it can feel a little wacky sometimes. So we need to learn from each other. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to our next episode. In the meantime, download our free ebook, 6 Secrets for Success, at familyhealthandhustle.com. And remember, we're on this journey together.
Hey, real fast, before you go, I just wanted to jump on here and let you know, if you like what you're hearing on the show, you enjoy the content that we're creating, and you want more, please head over to familyhealthandhustle.com. Subscribe to Balance and Beyond. Balance and Beyond is a new monthly publication that I'll be sending out that covers more of the content and things that you're seeing on the show, just the same type of subjects, anything about balancing life, pursuing goals, and just moving forward. So again, if you like what you're hearing on the show and you want to support and you want more content, more information, please head over to familyhealthandhustle.com and subscribe to Balance and Beyond. Thanks so much. I'll see you later.